Greetings and peace and love, everybody. My name is Ram Hotep, broadcasting on behalf of 13 ScienceAstrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Before I get into this episode, and I don't really like showing a lot of drinks on camera, but I want to pour libations to the ancestors. I have my popular Fiji water here. And I'm traveling, so I can't really get the best water, so I'm drinking Fiji right now because I know we got a lot of health heads out there that are like really into, and I am too, that are really into taking in the best water. And I'm just letting all my fellow health heads know, like, yeah, I'm still taking in that good water, but right now on this road, it's real hard to get it the way I really want to. So I'm going to pour some libations to the ancestors. I'm pouring these libations to my ancestors. So I'm not going to say any names out loud, but Ashe, Ashe. So reason why I'm doing this is because on this particular segment, I want to talk about our connection to the fourth dimension and our connection to our ancestors. And I want to talk about how our connection to our ancestors affects our reality. Specifically, though, dealing with the weather. This video is about the weather. Especially here in America right now, the weather has been very unseasonable. It's been very out of season. The weather right now in the Midwest, the Midwestern part of the United States, is totally different, almost like a different environment than the weather in the southern part of the United States. And we've been getting a lot of precipitation as well in the United States of America. And the weather's just been jacked up. There's been a lot of changes. A lot of people are saying spring won't come in. I was watching something on the news and they were saying some particular prosecutor is even actually prosecuting the groundhog. He's prosecuting the groundhog, y'all. He's actually trying to give the groundhog the death penalty because he's saying that the groundhog falsely predicted that spring would come early. And it sounds funny, but the funny thing is that he's dead ass serious. It's a prosecutor from Ohio that's really trying to prosecute a groundhog. And that's just how messed up people are because of the weather. Like, the weather is like really jacked up and people are wondering, well, what is it? Like, how come the weather's messed up? Like, you'll watch the weather and the weatherman will tell you one thing and it does something totally different. People are wondering, why is that? Like, how come the weatherman isn't on point as much as he used to be? Because back in the day, you could watch the weather and they give you a 7-day forecast, and for the most part, that 7-day forecast would play out. But now you watch the weather, they give you a 7-day forecast, and the first day might not even be the weather that they predicted. So I want to go into the metaphysics behind that, because you know me, Ram Hotep, I'm a metaphysician, I'm an occultist, and we believe in looking into the unseen and energy and looking at what creates matter and what creates the physical reality. And weather is nothing but energy. It's nothing but energy. And what's going on right now is that our connection to our ancestors is not great. We don't have a cord or energetic cord that connects us with our ancestors. You see, we all have cords, spiritual cords that connects us to our loved ones, those that are in the physical body as well as those that are on the spiritual plane. And the reason why a lot of people aren't connected with their ancestors is because once people pass, we believe they're gone. We don't believe in the fact that our ancestors are always there with us and that we can still communicate with the etheric shell. But when you begin to do this and you build up a connection with your ancestors by pouring libations and things of the sort, what happens is that it creates cords, spiritual cords. And basically these spiritual cords connect us all. Like, all of humanity is connected by like these cords or whatever. And this is why, like, sometimes if a person that you love is thinking about you, you'll start to think about them at the same time. And that's a form of telepathy, true, but this works on a metaphysical level through the cords. And it's the same way with the weather. So we don't have a connection with our ancestors. A lot of, like, humanity doesn't, especially over here in America. So our weather's jacked up because the ancestors, believe it or not, are the actual archetypes that are responsible for creating the weather. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that your particular ancestor is one of those ancestors that's creating the weather. I'm not necessarily saying that's your particular ancestor, but I'm saying that the ancestors are responsible for that. Now, it may be your ancestor that's responsible for creating weather. It all depends on the energy of the particular ancestor and his ranking in the astral realm, or her ranking in the astral realm. Say, for instance, when you study Asar, the Dia, everybody's heard of Asar. and you study, some people call him Osiris. Osiris is a ranking in the fourth dimension, which could either be the dimension of the dead, or the dimension of the dream world, or the dimension of the astral plane, whatever you want to call it. But Osiris is a ranking there. So when your ancestor makes his or her transition, they can transition into the rank of Osiris. And this is why, or Osar, I call him Osar, that's his magical name. And this is why a lot of people don't understand Kemet or Egypt, because they don't understand that these deities are positions and titles that many people can channel and be up under. You can be up under the energy of Asar and still be in a physical body and still be channeling Asar. So what I'm pointing out here is that your ancestor could be creating the weather if that particular ancestor is on a rank and on a level to where they have that type of knowledge and information. And you wonder, well, how would an ancestor get this type of knowledge and information? Ancestor will get this type of knowledge and information based upon the things that they've learned in other incarnations. So they may have spent a lot of incarnations as a scientist, they may have spent a lot of incarnations as a chemist, and they may have spent a lot of incarnations as an occultist. So over time, they learned about energy, the unseen aspect of it, and how it creates physical reality. So when they go and they transition in what you would call death into another life, because that's all death is, the transition to another life, they will still remember and take on those memories of the things that they've picked up over all these different incarnations, and they can take those memories into the next dimension and be able to create with it. So you don't need a physical body to create. Creation is predicated upon thoughts, which is based upon actually a fifth dimension. So I'm saying all of this, it's going somewhere, because this is all linked to the weather. So I'm saying all this to say that the weather is jacked up for a lot of reasons, and I'm going to go into the energetic dynamics of it. Now, the first reason is one of the most important reasons, because we can change anything, is that we as a human species right now are at a very low energy rate as far as collective consciousness is concerned. We are supposed to be making a shift. We're supposed to be raising our energy and becoming more spiritual beings, but humanity is still fighting this. You could turn on the news and on television and see all the killings and the rapes and just all the lower energy level stuff, all the predatory type of acts and drama that's going on TV and on the television. You can pretty much see that our energy is very low. It's very low. And what's going on is that the quarantine is being slowly lifted. Like right now as we speak, it's being slowly lifted. So when the quarantine is lifted, this basically what it is I'm going to do a whole video talking about this, but simply what it is just to make a simple statement. Quarantine being lifted is basically the veil or the energy or the barrier that separates our ability to connect with the spiritual world or the unseen fourth dimensional world. And here, the quarantine was nothing but a veil or a barrier that made it harder for us to connect with that world. And that veil is breaking down, it's deteriorating. So imagine the veil is this far back, and slowly but surely the veil is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, to where the line that separates the physical world, third dimensional world, the fourth dimensional world is very thin right now. It's very thin. So what's happening is that our lower negative energy thoughts are creating realities for us a lot faster and a lot easier. And people are wondering why things aren't the same. Like people that even are my age, I'm not even an old guy, I'm still a young guy. And people that are my age know that back in the 90s, it was different. The energy was different than it is now. Like life was totally different. People did things differently. And I know people are always changing. What I'm trying to break down here is that this shift is really speeding things up. It's making the earth vibrate faster, and it's breaking down that barrier of the quarantine. It's causing our thoughts to create realities for us quickly. And when a group of people, especially in a state, because you got to remember, a state denotes your mental state. So you say, I live in the state of Ohio. I live in the state of Georgia. I live in the state of Israel. This is your state. This is your status. So a group of people that live in a state are all up under a particular mental mind programming, a certain matrix programming. No matter how you look at it, you live in a state, you're up under a certain programming of that state. And what happens is, collectively, all of these people within a certain state create a reality based upon their thoughts. So if this group of people in a state is very depressed and the energy is very low and very negative, and it's enough of these people that feel like that, the weather in that particular state is going to reflect that. So that's part of how we create the weather. See, we create rain, hail, snow, earthquakes. One of my teachers always taught that the Son of Man creates these things. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was one of my teachers when I was younger. And he always taught me that under the 5% doctrine that the Son of Man was the one that created all of these things, the rain, hail, snow, earthquakes. I add on to say the Son of Man, but really the female is a part of this as well. So I would say humanity is responsible for creating this weather. You wonder, how could humanity create rain, hail, snow, earthquakes? Well, let's go into the root of it. What is rain? Rain is, of course, a bunch of moisture. But on a metaphysical level, moisture equates to what? Spirituality, water, intuition. So, emotions. That's the word I was looking for. So, when it rains and it's an abundance of water, it's one or two things depending on how it's raining. If it's violently raining, coming down real hard, that means a lot of people are emotional. The ethers are stirred up. It's a group of people that are very emotional, and they called into existence a weather pattern, which is rain. But then if it's kind of sprinkling and it's coming down like a peaceful rain, not a violent, but a peaceful rain is just consistently coming down, this represents mercy. This represents forgiveness. This represents cleansing. And this is an emotional energy as well, but it's the opposite end of a violent rain, which represents a lot of people that are angry. So when it's consistently raining, this just represents people need to cleanse. A lot of people are feeling dirty, polluted, and they need to cleanse. That's simply what needs to take place if it's just, a peaceful rain, as we call it. Now let's get into snow. Snow is basically just like rain, except it's what? It's only has to be around 32 degrees, right? For it to snow. And all my fellow Freemasons out there know 33 degrees, you're a master, right? You're a master Mason at 33 degrees, and 32 degrees, you're in the middle. You still kind of, the water needs to melt. And the ice, I should say, needs to melt and turn to water. So 32 degrees is kind of like the point of freezing. Right before you get into this solution, turn it into water. And turn it into useful water that you can drink, from ice to water. So 32 degrees is very important, like the number 32. When you understand snow and when you understand the creation of weather, because if you study the number 32 in the Emerald Tablets, it talks about there's 32 sons and daughters of the light. There's 32. So really, what I'm saying here is that once we get to that 32nd degree, as far as energy, like if 32 people basically came together and thought a certain mental programming and a mental vibration for enough time, these 32 people would create a weather pattern. It's that interesting. So even I'm using the number 32 to relate to the fact that that's when, it can snow at 32 degrees, but actually that 32 is a mystical number. See, it's the reason why it is a number 32. Like why 32 degrees? How come it wasn't 31 degrees? How come not 33? Like why does it have to be around 32 degrees or somewhere around there, 33 degrees in that area for it to snow? And why is that the same equivalent of a master? Like if you're 33rd degree, you're a master. Jesus was 33 when he so-called died, when he made his transformation, actually, when he became a master. So the number 33 is key in working with any type of magic. So I'm showing you the magic within even just looking at the weather. Even the weather submits to the metaphysical laws, the laws of the unseen. Knowing how to work with numbers, which are codes, to create realities. So you got the snow, hail. Hail is basically a bunch of it's kind of like a mixture of, I guess you could say like a rain, but it's not a rain, or like a ice, but it's not really an ice. But hail is pretty much created from it's the same energy that snow would be created from. Group of people that are thinking very negatively, group of people that are thinking even violently, can cause a hailstorm to come down, a bunch of rocks coming from out the sky, which causes pain and affliction. So this will go into violence and warfare. A lot of magicians would conjure hail. Back in the day, like you have different spells that you can use to conjure weather, because you can create weather too with crystals and dowsing rods and things of that nature. So I mean, this can get really, really deep though. And like you read about the staff of Moses. Moses had a staff. See, Moses had a staff because he was using the staff and his ankh to create weather. because he was dealing with electromagnetism. His staff was working with the electromagnetism a certain kind of way to create certain effects. You can go out and chant with this staff and point this staff in a certain direction, and you'll cause hail to come, storms to come, and things of that nature. But hail is an act of war. So that represents when people are in a spirit of justice and a spirit of anger, it might start to hail or whatever. So you channel that energy from that particular emotion. So what I'm really explaining to you is how different emotions create the weather. An unseen thing is something that people take for granted. They're like, I'm mad, that's my emotion, I got the right to be mad. You do, but you might be creating a reality. If your energy is that strong and you get mad, like some people get mad and it just starts raining. Like some people, they have energy like that. You know, get mad and it'll start thundering and, you know, lightning and all of that. People, I mean, most people don't look at it as though that's one particular person that did that, but some people are that powerful that they got the spirit of 32 people within them, and they can just create certain weather patterns or whatever. So all of it is based upon this unseen thing called emotion. And earthquakes are the same. Earthquakes actually happen from the center of the earth. When you study a lot of metaphysics, a lot of the teachers teach that there are certain archetypes, certain gods of the terrestrial, on a terrestrial level, that create earthquakes, because you have plates that shift within the center of the earth, and these, according to metaphysics, these plates can be controlled by certain beings. And these plates cause friction, which causes a shaking of the earth on the surface part. So an earthquake is something that will take place on the surface, but not necessarily in the center of the earth. So an earthquake is something that we can get into learning how to work with on a telepathic level by communicating with the beings that make and create earthquakes. Usually when an earthquake happens, this represents total annihilation. When it's a big earthquake or tsunami, this is when beings are totally about to wipe out something. This is when it's not a warning, it's not about compromise. This is basically when a group of people usually are dealt with so unjustly in a particular area, or there's so much injustice just in general on the planet, that an earthquake needs to happen to get people back on track. See, if you remember, what really caused the shift to really come into play in 2011 was the tsunamis that took place in 2011. So that's what got us to this point where everybody's all spiritual and wanting to even hear about metaphysics and talk about metaphysics and stuff, is because of the beings in the center of the earth had to get us to that point. See, they caused those earthquakes. If you was watching the news, the tsunamis, you seen the UFOs and stuff flying around. And when the Japanese tsunami happened in 2011 in Japan, you seen the UFOs flying around. That's the energy. You see, like, that's the energy in the UFOs. See, they are responsible for creating earthquakes as well, because right before it happens, UFOs always come out to warn those enlightened people. Like, it's about to be an earthquake, you'll see UFOs first, and then they'll come back after. Like, after the earthquake or the tsunami subsides, they'll come back to watch over certain people. You see, and a lot of teachers teach that how UFOs will come back to pick up certain people. And I don't really teach that. See, I teach that, yeah, we have beings that are protecting us and watching out for us, that drive around and fly around in crafts. We have a connection and cords and relationships established with those particular beings, but they help us through communication and telepathy and through our thoughts. And it's helping us to align certain ways with energy. This is how we communicate with these beings, and this is how we'll be saved by beings. They're not going to come down in a craft and crash down into the waters and pick you up and put you on a ship and fly off. It's not going to happen like that. It's going to take you having a connection with these particular beings, with your ancestors. So that's what I'm dealing with here. So why does nature know when something's going to happen? Like, how come birds know when weather's going to get chaotic? How come all the birds fly south during certain seasons? What makes them to know this? Magnetism, memory, mentalism. See, the bird is like Tahuti. He represents the ibis bird, and the birds are connected to the core of the planet through magnetism, through their thoughts. And they know when something's going to happen, the planet simply tells them. And the birds aren't separated. See, they're still part of a soul group, which means that when one soul hears something, all the birds know. You tell one bird something, all the birds know. Birds don't have secret societies. If they do, the secret society is based upon the bloodline or the gender or the species of that particular bird. Because if you tell a group of crows something, see, crows roll in groups, the families. If you tell one crow something, they have a way of, they're all connected, so they all know. And they share information that way. This is how information is passed on. So humans, we have that, but the thing is that we're not conscious of it. We are connected to the earth. We create the weather, actually, and we're not conscious of it. And this is why the weather's jacked up right now. See, if we were conscious of the weather. We could create a sunny day every day. It would never rain. It was a time on this planet there wasn't no such thing as rain in certain areas. Didn't rain, didn't have earthquakes. This is new to this planet. This didn't always happen. Didn't always have seasons. You see? And this is why astrology became so important, because of the seasons. Astrology goes and demonstrates the seasons and the different zodiac signs and the tilt. See, all of this came from humanity's emotions, humanity's anger. If the earth was never tilted based upon nuclear explosion, the earth tilted 23rd and the third degree on its axis. It wasn't always like that. It sits like this. It rotates like this, but it wasn't always like that. It used to sit straight up. And many of you heard me talk about this in my videos, but I'm just going back over it to help you to see that humanity has we created all this. The weather patterns, the different Atlantis got destroyed because of humans. So I'm basically pointing out that we have to get our minds right, have to get our spirit right. We have to align with nature. We have to work with the earth element more. We have to work with the feminine principle more, which means not taking things as serious and really just taking time to just relax, to get away from the technology, getting away from the just all the artificial things that we do, the artificial foods and stuff, and just take a day where you just relax and chill and really get your energy right so that you can get back right with nature, which will make the weather become better. See, we can cause the weather to shift. We can easily do that if enough beings agree in a certain state. That's why I point out the state. So whatever state you're in, you have to affect change there. It starts in your state because that's your place. And the weather patterns are created from state to state. So that's going to do it for me. My brief spill on how humans create weather, or what creates weather. The answer is simple, ladies and gentlemen. It's us. It's us. We're the culprits. We're guilty. We don't realize how much our thoughts create things. We don't realize how connected we are to this fourth dimension. So we don't understand the fourth dimension. And the fact that the quarantine is being lifted, we're responsible even more so now. Because the beings that were responsible for creating weather patterns when we went to sleep during the time of the quarantine being cast, see, we lost that power to create weather. That's why the weather was more set. That's where I was getting at earlier. The weather was more set. And whereas now the weather is changeable. You never know what the weather's going to be, even from hour to hour sometimes. You might go outside with a coat on and it's warm, and then 3 hours later, it's freezing cold. You know what I'm saying? Because the weather's changing, because people's thoughts are chaotic right now. People are not balanced. People are not grounded. And I would say, like, the most important thing in being harmonious is being grounded. That's the most important thing. Enjoying your life. You're not just enjoying yourself in general. You don't have to be, you could be, if you really truly are a master, you should be able to be by yourself and still be happy. By yourself and still be happy. You know what I'm saying? Because it's about finding that inner peace. And that's what a lot of humans haven't found. I understand that. But that's what I'm here, you know, to offer you and teach you that, yeah, we do create weather patterns. So think about the things that you say and do, and just think about your surroundings and that the fact that we're all connected. Just think about that. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you learned something from this particular segment. Honor your thoughts, honor your ancestors. Know that you're connected with them. And I want you to stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be dealing with the my next video is going to be dealing with the Merkaba. I'm going to be going into the Merkaba, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the programming of the Merkaba and go a little bit deeper into the programming of the Merkaba, because we can create different types of Merkabas to help us to control weather patterns and things of that nature. See, there's more than one Merkaba. So you heard me talk about the personal Merkaba or the human Merkaba, but there's different types of Merkabas. So I'm going to help you to understand the weather patterns in relationship to the Merkaba, which is going to help you to understand the fourth dimension a lot better. Because my goal with a lot of my teachings and segments and episodes and things that I'm putting out is to get people to understand the fourth dimension a lot better. That's why I talk so much about Atlantis. Because you have to understand the fourth dimension, because that's where everything is created at. That's where the energy starts at, the fourth dimension. So that's why you always hear me talking about it over and over again, the fourth dimension, because the more we understand that, the more we become gods and masters. That's the basis of becoming a god, is meeting God on the fourth dimension and mastering that God. So you can't become a god unless you master the particular god you're trying to become. See, as a magician, you got to remember, you are always a magician. So you have to put yourself in a position to where you are always the master. So when you conjure up a particular deity, that's a god. And two things can happen. That God can either, you can either follow that God, which is you're going to have to follow it for a certain period of time if you want to get what you want to get from it. But you can follow that God for a long period of time, or you can follow that God to a point to where you get what you want to get from that God, and then you become a master over that God. How do you become a master over that God? By fully understanding that particular God's nature. See, everything has a nature, even God. God has a nature, it just exists. The nature of God just exists on the fourth dimension and not the third. Like human bodily nature and biochemical nature exists, within the physical shell. But if you want to get into the nature of God, you got to get into 4D. So that's what this is all about, is teaching you how 4D works so that you can become a god. See, people say they want to become gods and kings and rulers and stuff like that, but it's all about energy, chi, shin, breath, and working with that so that you can change and create your reality and will your reality. That's the goal, is to will your reality. I hope that helped. And until we meet again, I'm going to leave you in peace, love, and light.